Good morning. Welcome to this online gathering of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock. My name is Rebecca Retzel. I'm a member and currently serving as the chair of the worship arts team. We mean it when we say, whoever you are, wherever you are, we are so glad that you've chosen to join us for worship today. Today is the fifth and final Sunday of our August sermon series entitled Voices Past Through Voices Present. Most of the content from today's service comes from the 1980s, as preserved in our UUCLR archives. Again, thank you to the team of people who put those archives together. This has been a gift for me as I put the series together. It will continue to be a gift forever as we are able to reach back into our past, to learn things and to hear things and to find out where we came from and how far we have yet to go. Our opening words this morning come from our own former minister, Reverend Jean Rickard. Reverend Jean served from 1983 to 1992, and in her candidating material, I found a small segment, her introduction, from the Pulpit Committee, in an invitation to meet the Reverend Jean M. Rickard. The Reverend Jean McKnight Rickard is the unanimous choice of the Pulpit Committee. She received her MDiv degree from Andover Newton Theological School and was ordained at First Parish in Cambridge, Massachusetts in 1981. She served as the Director of Religious Education at First Parish for 4 years and is now the interim minister at Second Congregational Society Unitarian in Concord, New Hampshire. Jean is married and has 2 sons, Michael, 15, and Kenneth, 13. The Rickards reside in North Reading, Massachusetts. Please make plans to meet Jean and her husband, David, during Candidating Week, October 17th through the 24th. Our opening words this morning are from a sermon she delivered on September 10th, 1989, entitled, There's a Place for Me. Some churches, some organizations remind me of the compulsive folks who clean up their houses for hours before the cleaning people come. Some churches, some organizations insist that you have to clean up your act before you can join in. You have to have the right kind of conversation, the right beliefs, the right clothes, the right words, the right humility, the right obedience to be a part of their patchwork quilt. Not so here. You don't have to conform to some predetermined shape. You don't have to get cut to the right size to fit in our fabric. No. We ask you to do something harder. Be yourself. Be honest with yourself. Plumb to the depths of your life to discover its truths. Dare to dream new dreams. Dare to doubt and love the doubting. Dare to challenge and grow in challenging the world around you. Dare to question authority and use common sense in all that you do. And that is not all. We ask something even harder. It is not enough to be yourself for your own sake, although that is a wonderful and difficult goal. We ask you to be yourself, not in service of yourself, but in service to goodness and justice and mercy. We ask that you be yourselves, your own true selves, in facing the power of universal justice, or the God of love, or the vast mystery of life that calls us to compassion. Join us in a spirit of worship today.
Good morning. My name is Gene Slaughter Hudnall, and I'm a lifelong member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock. This morning I invite you to join in our affirmation of covenant. Though the words may have been different in the 1980s, this practice had become a weekly fixture in the services by then. These are the words of promise that we now say to each other each week, words that bind us together as a community of faith. Please say them with me in voice or in spirit. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
Good morning, I'm Liz McKenzie and I'm here with my wife, Karen Walls. From the early 80s and possibly beyond, most of the UUCLR church services would conclude with the same closing song, a practice of repetition to remind the congregation of our vision of the future. This morning, I light our chalice with the words from that song. From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue.
Hi, my name is Linda Van Blaricum, and I think I found UUCLR around 1982. My son was 4 years old at the time, and I started looking for a church home. And some friends told me about the Unitarian Church. And prior to that, I had no idea that such a liberal beacon of religious faith existed anywhere, let alone in Little Rock, Arkansas. And so, like many of you, when I walked through those church doors, I discovered I was home. The church has meant everything to me over the years, starting around 1982. It has been a great source of inspiration, of faith development, of community, of love. When I first started coming to the church, there was a very active adult young singles group, and I got very involved with that. There were all sorts of opportunities for socialization and building community, like small group dinners that still exist today. The church worship services were wonderful, and just met every need I had. I think for the first couple of years that I came to church, I probably cried during some portion of the church service because it just touched my heart so much. So I'm just very grateful to this church community, to the fact that Unitarian Universalism exists. I attend the national meetings when I can. I've been involved probably in every aspect of church leadership. And again, those opportunities have been tremendous opportunities for personal growth and connection. So thank you to all my church family, and spread the good news.
Good morning. I'm Laurie Smith-Perdome. I'm one of the church musicians, and I'm the chair of the UUCLR UU the Vote group. This morning, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what we've been up to. We're working with the Arkansas Poor People's Campaign to identify voters and encourage them to vote this fall. We've written a small grant to the UUA to help pay for postage for people that are mailing in applications for absentee ballots or for the ballots themselves. We're also going to have gas cards for volunteers that want to drive people to the polls either on Election Day or for early voting. We're very excited about this opportunity to work locally with groups that are already identifying and contacting voters. If you would like to be involved, we've got socially distant ways to write letters and to encourage people to vote, or possibly to text or phone bank. You can email us at uuthevote@uuclr.org. We really appreciate the excitement that we've already seen from members of our congregation, and we appreciate the support of the board. If you want to help us get out the vote this fall and make a difference, we would love to work with you. Thanks.
For a time all together today, I'd like to share a story which I often read to my children. After coming home from a committee meeting with the building crew that's working on this massive renovation, that night when I read this story, it hit me a little bit differently, and I wanted to share it with you all. This story is called Room on the Broom by Julia Donaldson, illustrated by Axel Scheffler. We have been given permission by Julia to read this story in our service today. It was published by Puffin Books in 2001. Room on the Broom. The witch had a cat, and a hat that was black, and long ginger hair in a braid down her back. How the cat purred and how the witch grinned as they sat on their broomstick and flew through the wind. But how the witch wailed and how the cat spat when the wind blew so wildly it blew off her hat. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the hat, but no hat could be found. Then out of the bushes, on thundering paws, there bounded a dog with the hat in his jaws. He dropped it politely, then eagerly said, as the witch pulled the hat firmly down on her head, I am a dog, as keen as can be. Is there room on the broom for a dog like me? Yes, cried the witch, and the dog clambered on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the fields and the forests they flew. The dog wagged his tail, and the stormy wind blew. The witch laughed out loud and held on to her hat, but away blew the bow from the braid, just like that. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the bow, but no bow could be found. Then out of a tree, with an ear-splitting shriek, there flapped a green bird with a bow in her beak. She dropped it politely and bent her head low. Then she said, as the witch tied the braid in a bow, I am a bird, as green as can be. Is there room on the broom for a bird like me? Yes, cried the witch, and the bird fluttered on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the reeds and the rivers they flew. The bird shrieked with glee, and the stormy wind blew. They shot through the sky to the back of beyond. The witch clutched her bow, but let go of her wand. Down, cried the witch, and they flew to the ground. They searched for the wand, but no wand could be found. Then all of a sudden, from out of a pond, leaped a dripping wet frog with a dripping wet wand. He dropped it politely, then said with a croak, as the witch dried the wand on a fold of her cloak, I am a frog, as clean as can be.
Is there room on the broom for a frog like me?"
"Yes," said the witch. So the frog bounded on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone. Over the moors and the mountains they flew. The frog jumped for joy, and the broom snapped in two. Down fell the cat and the dog and the frog. Down they went tumbling into a bog. The witch's half broomstick flew into a cloud, and the witch heard a roar that was scary and loud.
"I am a dragon, as mean as can be, and a witch with French fries sounds delicious to me."
"No!" cried the witch, flying higher and higher. The dragon flew after her, breathing out fire. "Help!" cried the witch, flying down to the ground. She looked all around, but no help could be found. The dragon flew near, with a glint in his eye, and said,
"Just this once, I'll have witch without fries."
But just as he planned to begin on his feast, from out of the ditch rose a horrible beast. It was tall, dark, and sticky, and feathered and furred. It had 4 frightful heads. It had wings like a bird. And its terrible voice, when it started to speak, was a yowl and a growl and a croak and a shriek. It dripped and it squelched and it rose from the ditch, and it said to that dragon,
"Buzz off, that's my witch."
The dragon drew back, and he started to shake.
"I'm sorry," he sputtered. I made a mistake. It's nice to have met you, and now I must fly."
And he spread out his wings and was off through the sky. Then down flew the bird, and down jumped the frog. Down climbed the cat. And phew, said the dog. And thank you, oh thank you, the grateful witch cried. Without you, I'd be on the dragon's inside. Then she filled up her cauldron and said with a grin, "Find something, everyone, throw something in." So the frog found a lily. The cat found a cone. The bird found a twig, and the dog found a bone. They all threw them in, and the witch stirred them well. And while she was stirring, she muttered a spell. Iggity, ziggity, zaggity, zoom! Then out rose a truly magnificent broom, with seats for the witch and the cat and the dog, a nest for the bird, and a pool for the frog. "Yes!" cried the witch, and they all clambered on. The witch tapped her broomstick, and whoosh, they were gone.
Good morning. I'm Margaret McClellan. I'm on the Worship Arts team and the Memorial Woodlands Committee. I also sing in the choir at this time. Today I'll be reading a sermon written by the Reverend Gene Rickard. It was delivered on March 27, 1983. I joined the church after Gene had left, but I knew Gene as I had several consultations with her about the possibility of becoming a Unitarian Universalist minister. And let me tell you, that's a high bar, a very high bar. Her sermon is entitled The Intentional Community. Gene writes, "There are a few reasons for my choice of sermon topic today. One is that today is the beginning of our church pledge drive. As important as raising funds is, the fundamentally important thing is reaching out to everyone to talk about commitment, about what the church is doing and how well it is doing it. It's a time of taking the pulse of the congregation, a time of reflection on who we are and what we are about." The second reason for this sermon relates to my being new here as your minister. I want to share my vision for this church and to invite you to share with me and with each other, as realistically as you can, your vision. The only way we'll begin to work together and not at cross purposes is if we are together in our goals and aims and dreams. I'm not hoping for a Democratic vote or unanimity, but a consensus among us that this is who we are and this is where we're headed, that we are generally on the same wavelength and headed in the same direction for similar reasons. I believe that a church can and ought to be an intentional community. Intent means close attention. It means a determination to act in a certain way or to do a certain thing. Intentional means done by design. A church is a gathered community of people who are bound together by shared vision and purpose, a particular history, and an agreed upon process or set of ways in which they intend to carry out their vision and purpose. Our membership in this gathered community is intentional. Each of us has to take a deliberate step to join. We are not born into it, nor do we enter into it by virtue of moving to this neighborhood or this city. We join this church because we share in the principles and purposes for which it stands. Here we publicly reaffirm those purposes each Sunday in our unison affirmation. Today we call it our affirmation of covenant. It is a good practice, I think, for it grounds us each week in recalling, re-saying, re-envisioning what we are about. And almost every Sunday we close by singing the same words. And that's a good practice, I think, because we leave here each week reminding ourselves of our vision of the future, our collective hope that peace and goodwill, love and faith will be sung universally. We begin each Sunday with a restatement of purpose, and we end each Sunday with a statement of hope and vision. It defines who we are and what we are about. By our membership and our presence, and by the words we repeatedly say and sing, we signify intentionality. in being here for better or worse, in the good times and in the not so good. That's what I think a church can and ought to be, an intentional community. And I think we are one. I'd also like to describe what I think is a great congregation, one that is alive and bursting with possibility and accomplishment. It is my vision of where I would like to see us grow and develop. From various readings about the nature of lively, great churches, and from my own reflection on the churches I've been a part of, I've come up with 8 characteristics. And you might want to take notes of these characteristics. These are the things I want to work towards. One caution. Although this is what I aim toward and hope for and work toward, I stumble and falter too. I'm human. I may be inconsistent as the next person in living out my ideals. I need you to remind me of visions and ideals as much as you want a minister to remind you of ideals and vision. And I might need you more even than you need me. We are all in this together. And where have we heard those words in today's world? The first characteristic of a great church is this. There is a high sense of self-worth among the members. Being is more important than doing. People practice taking each other seriously, and people are open to each other's differing gifts and insights. There is a high level of trust and caring for one another and for our staff. As one religious educator put it, little bits of love float around. You could feel it in the air, in the atmosphere, those little bits of love. I'm not talking about the surface kind of goodwill or polite tolerance of differences, or the kind of semi-affirmation that says in effect, that's really good considering where it's coming from, or for a middle-aged man, that's really something. I'm talking about a real appreciation of the differences that says in effect, because he's a teenager, I want to hear him, because that's a viewpoint that can stretch me. Or because he's a person, he may bring a different slant on reality than I have been able to get. I'm talking about a healthy sense of collective self-worth that values the difference among us because we are stretched and changed and opened up by differences, not so much by similarities. A second characteristic of a great church is that there are rules that are flexible, human, appropriate, and subject to change. It is not a rigid church. There is genuine openness to novel, surprise, and joy. The deadest churches are the ones bound by rules and traditions. On the other hand, the most frustrating churches are those who have few rules and traditions. One of the most difficult balancing acts of any social group, be it family, school, political organization, or church, is to maintain a healthy tension between predictability and surprise. In psychological terms, without some anxiety, there's no growth in an organism. Creative tension is essential to the life-giving processes. In a church, there must be sufficient anxiety, or newness, or surprises, for worship, spiritual growth, outreach, and new learning to occur. But the anxiety must be contained within bounds. It must energize, not paralyze, the life of the congregation. A genuinely active church must be open to novelty, but not captivated by it. We need a healthy sameness even as we need change. Recognition of that tension is crucial to our health. Third, a great church pays attention, is attentive and intentional to its core values and seeks to deepen them. The truth is discovered and happens. Religious depth in its many forms is taken seriously, but not necessarily somberly. The church exists to help us find meaning in our lives, and unless we take this seriously, we become a facile social club. Together we need to find ways of helping each other go deeper into the paths to meaning, to find the ultimate in our lives, and to strengthen those connections. Fourth, a strong church has good administrative, communication, and decision-making processes shared by all. Goals are set together, taken seriously, publicized widely, and action stems from those goals. The time for goal setting is the most exciting part of the church year because it is a time of looking ahead to what we will accomplish together, and it's a time of looking back to evaluate what has happened in the past year. It almost goes without saying that strong committees make things happen. My wish is for strong committees in each area of church life, meeting regularly and making plans and carrying out programs and communicating with everyone else. When we see an issue we don't understand or know how to solve, we check with other churches to see how they have found creative solutions. Our administration grows stronger as we gain expertise from a wide variety of sources. Good administration is intentional. A fifth characteristic of strong churches is that they have plenty of good opportunities for ongoing growth and learning by people of all ages and stages of life. There are good, solid programs for children and youth, and small group and large group learning experience for adults, young and old. Two things that have impressed me here and that help me to know that you are on the right path are ongoing adult education programs with a variety of subjects, times, and formats, and a children's religious education program with an exceptional teaching staff. In the last two churches I was in, there was no adult education program when I arrived, despite the fact that both of those churches had memberships much larger than this church. Sixth, a strong church takes seriously its responsibility to serve the wider community, both in direct social service and in more far-reaching and foundational social action on the vital issues facing our world. And it publicizes what it does. I applaud the newspaper and aluminum drives, the hunger walks, the special fundraising efforts for direct social services to the needy here in Arkansas. I hope we will continue and broaden our efforts to include a commitment on everyone's part to be involved in social service some way or other. In social action on society issues, I am glad to see the wide range of individual activities in various organizations. It is my belief that our church exists to empower each other to go out and empower others. As we build up each other's strength and depth of purpose, we are empowering ourselves for a ministry out in the workplace, the political arena, the media, and in Washington. Strong people with strong visions can take strong action in the ways they are called to and in the places they are called to serve. Our task as a church is to educate each other, raise each other's consciousness, so that we become sensitive to and enabled to reach out. The important thing to remember is that one person's issue may not be another's, but together we are actors in a multitude of arenas. We must provide support for one another as we go out to do the work of spreading peace, justice, and goodwill. A seventh characteristic of a great church is that it has a good process for welcoming and assimilating new members. New people have many opportunities to become part of the inner fellowship circles of the church. There are currently many manuals and books written on ways of assembling new members. It is my hope that we will work together in this area and learn to be intentional in attracting, assimilating, and retaining our new people. They are the life that enlivens and enriches the group. And finally, the eighth characteristic of strong churches is that they have good leadership, both lay leadership and staff. In everything I have read about strong churches, inspiring, caring, thoughtful, and authentic ministry is crucial, along with sensitive, knowledgeable, and energetic religious education staff and competent, friendly support staff. Knowing the critical importance of ministerial leadership is both humbling and challenging for a minister. What can I say? I can only pledge to do my best, with your support and feedback, to be open, honest, thoughtful, but not always somber. My goal is shared leadership, each of us empowering the other to be our best selves and our most honest selves. This is the mental picture I am working towards in my ministry here. This is the church I envision. We are a liberal church with no fixed answers and no fixed dogma. We find our answers in the process of living as individuals and living in community with others. We search for the true and the right, both individually and collectively, in the church community. The root meaning of liberal is a commitment to individual growth and understanding, and thus when we work together in community, what is required of us is openness to the rich sharing of each other's gifts and insights. When we make decisions and plan as a community, we are required to do so in such a way that we encourage maximum individual participation and provide maximum benefit and learning for the individual. Thus, we must be intentional about diversity and intentional about the democratic process. I'd like to close with the words from a Carole King song entitled, "We Are All in This Together." The just are seeking justice. The meek are reaching out for something only children can really know about. And some men cry for mercy while they deny their brother's pain. And some men laugh for reasons they can never quite explain. We are all in this together, and maybe we'll see that one day when we conquer our fear together, when we finally find a way. And we all need forgiving for all the damage done, for the things we do, not thinking for the hurt that we've caused someone. But me, I keep on living, caught somewhere there between the reason and the meaning, the vision and the dream. We are all in this together. I know that seems easy to say, but I don't use the word forever. It's enough just to say someday. Amen and thank you.
Thank you for joining us for our worship service today. Thank you to everyone who participated, to all of our readers, to John Perez for putting us together so nicely during these Sunday morning gatherings. Thank you to our archive team again for making this August sermon series possible, and all month to all of our readers, to all the voices who participated. I am so grateful. This has made it a rich and fulfilling experience for me. I have learned so much as I've dug through these archives and read and looked at pictures and spoken with members who've joined throughout the decades. It's my hope that perhaps you also have not only learned a little bit about the history of our church, but have had opportunities to reflect on those poignant messages that struck you 40, 50, 60 years later after they were written, but still striking your heart or your head with meaning. I want to close with some more words from Reverend Jean Rickard. This was from an excerpt from her essay, A Journey to Ministry, which was also included in the pulpit committee's information that was shared with the church before she began her service at UUCLR. A church must embrace all three: the search for and grounding in faith, the message of hope, and the sharing and extension of love and justice in society. I see the liberal church as a unique institution, speaking to all of life and free to draw on many paths and traditions. For the past several decades, our message as Unitarian Universalists has been focused on hope and love. Our task for the future is to deepen our faith, to name it, share it, and declare it within and without of the walls of our church. Our future growth as a denomination depends upon finding and declaring our faith. We invite you to join us again next week. Reverend Jan will be back from sabbatical and sharing with us in the next service. We also invite you to connect with us throughout the week. There's many ways to engage. You can get connected with our newsletter to find out more about those, or just contact our church office at uuclr@uuclr.org. This morning, I'd like to bring us back into 2020 with our closing words, the words that we say together each week. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings. Stay safe. Stay connected. We love you all. Until next week.